News has now obtained the draft of James Comey's exoneration statement about the Clinton server investigation. Remember, before the investigation was even completed. We now know that the legal term grossly negligent was changed to extreme carelessness in two specific places. Also, the word likely was removed from a section where Comey talked about foreign actors actually gaining access to top secret special access program information on her server. Plus, explosive new information about how the Obama State Department actually gave Hillary Clinton and her top aide, Huma Abedin, special treatment. Now, Judicial Watch has obtained documents that show Clinton and Abedin were allowed to actually physically remove electronic records from the State Department that they claimed were, quote, unclassified and personal. Also, Sarah Carter is here tonight with a new bombshell report about the FBI using an NSA surveillance program to spy on the American people. Also, we have new details on how the anti-Trump, pro-Clinton text messages from the FBI agent Peter Strzok and his FBI lawyer girlfriend Lisa Page were discovered. And according to a brand new poll, a majority of you, the American people, believe that special counsel Robert Mueller's tainted and corrupt investigation is biased. We've been telling you the rest of the media needs to catch up. That's happening right in this breaking news opening monologue. All right, a major development in the Clinton server scandal. You've got to pay close attention tonight. This is going to be a blockbuster hour. We here at Fox News have obtained the draft of James Comey's exoneration statement that let Hillary Clinton off the hook as it relates to the email server. The document shows that the term grossly negligent was, in fact, changed to extreme carelessness in two places. Remember, grossly negligent is the legal standard, which would have meant that Clinton broke the law. And here's the other piece of new information. In the part where Comey was talking about foreign actors accessing Clinton's server, the word likely accessed was removed. This is national security. All of this continues to prove that the fix was in from the very beginning of what is a farce of an investigation. There was the exoneration before the investigation was anywhere near concluded. And here's why. The draft statement is from May 2nd, 2016. Hillary and others, in her case, wasn't interviewed by the FBI until the 4th of July weekend. So how could Comey, how could this Hillary-loving, Trump-hating FBI agent Peter Strzok reach any conclusion about Clinton's server investigation 2 months before they even interviewed her or other key people? The fix was in. Plain and simple, we now have the evidence. And Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett says what we just laid out could mean James Comey is guilty of obstruction of justice. That is a crime. That is a felony. We'll hear from him coming up later in the program. Also tonight, Judicial Watch has uncovered an absolutely bombshell report about the special treatment that Hillary Clinton and her top aide, Huma Abedin, were given by the Obama State Department. We now have documents that were obtained through the Freedom of Information Act. It shows that Clinton and her top aide, they were given permission by the State Department to remove both electronic and physical records that they claimed were, quote, personal and, quote, unclassified and non-recorded materials. According to Judicial Watch, this includes records of Hillary Clinton's calls, her schedules, which conveniently will not be made available to you, the American people. Also, in addition to all this, the document shows that Huma Abedin was allowed to take 5 boxes of physical files from the State Department, some of which were described as, quote, Muslim engagement documents. This is beyond outrageous, and it shows that there's a different set of rules and standards for the Clintons and their allies, a two-tiered justice system we have been talking about and warning you about. Make no mistake, this shouldn't be surprising, because it is all part of a pattern when it comes to the Clintons. The fix is in all the time. Fix is in against Bernie. The fix is in here. The fix is in on other issues. Removing, destroying documents, that's now just part of Clinton's standard operating procedures. Now, remember, Clinton on her own, 33,000 subpoenaed emails from her personal server. Remember, she deleted them, she acid washed them, she used bleach bit, and guess what? Her raids were smashing mobile devices with hammers. And by the way, they gave the other mobile device to the FBI. It didn't have a SIM card. It was useless. Why? Because Clinton claims they were personal between her and her husband, who doesn't email. And it was about a wedding, a funeral, and yoga and grandkids. Bill Clinton doesn't use email. Here's another wrinkle to this scandal. It's disturbing. It needs to be investigated. According to documents that Judicial Watch received, Clinton's calls, her schedules, were blocked from being made public and were allowed to be removed. Well, that's interesting when you consider this article from the AP in August of 2016. The headline, "Many donors to Clinton Foundation met with her at state." And the article goes on to detail, quote, "At least 85 of 154 people from private interests who met or had phone conversations scheduled with Clinton while she led the State Department, they all donated to her family charity or pledged commitments to its international programs." Now, and according to a review of State Department calendars released so far to the AP, combined, the 85 donors contributed as much as $156 million, and at least 40 donated more than $100,000 each, and 20 gave more than $1 million. So is that why Clinton and Abedin wanted to remove records of Hillary's calls and schedules? This would have come out in the campaign, and people would have been asking good questions. Now, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton, he will be here in just a few minutes. Also tonight, breaking, investigative reporter Sarah Carter is out with damning new details on this controversial NSA surveillance program that may have been used to collect information on Americans without a warrant. Do these people not hear of a U.S. Constitution against unreasonable search and seizure? That would be number 4. Sarah Carter reporting that numerous former intelligence law enforcement officials are now blowing the whistle on this potentially dangerous conduct in the way your government is conducting surveillance. And this is getting scary. According to the report, well, the officials, they were concerned over a practice that is known as reverse targeting, which, quote, occurs when intelligence and law enforcement officials use a foreign person as a legal pretense for their intended target, an American citizen. In other words, without a warrant. In other words, illegal. In other words, no Constitution, no Fourth Amendment. Now, Sarah Carter will also join us in a moment to explain how this practice may have been used as a political weapon. How often have you heard me talk about weaponizing our intelligence community, weaponizing the system of justice we have in this country, dual system of justice? Now, also tonight, we have breaking information about how the anti-Trump, pro-Clinton text messages from that FBI agent Peter Strzok and his FBI lawyer girlfriend Lisa Page were discovered. DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz is now revealing that his office requested those text messages between Strzok and his girlfriend Page. Well, as of now, 375, that's it. Fox News was able to obtain. Just those show a severe anti-Trump, pro-Hillary Clinton bias. Now, these text messages include calling Trump a loathsome human being, an idiot. Strzok and Page also disparaging and mocking Trump supporters. And that's just the start of it. Now, here's what is raising all kinds of red flags, and it should. In August of 2016, Strzok texted, "I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk." It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. Fox News believes, we haven't confirmed yet, that Andy in that message is Andrew McCabe. That would be the deputy FBI director. That's the same guy whose wife Jill got $700,000 in donations from Democrats, including Terry McAuliffe up to his eyeballs in this, during a 2015 Virginia State Senate run. That's an obscene amount of money for that race. We also have this exchange. Now, we edited out the middle of it, which contained a web link, and Page says, "And maybe you're meant to stay where you are because you're meant to protect the country from that menace." Wow, isn't that great? They take that all upon themselves. Strzok replies, "Thanks. It's absolutely true that we're both very fortunate. And, of course, I will try and approach it that way. I just know it will be tough at times. I can protect our country at many levels. Not sure if that helps." Now, why would Strzok, why would his girlfriend Paige, and who we now think is Andrew McCabe, need an insurance policy against Donald Trump if he's on his way to win the election? What exactly did that mean? Now, Judicial Watch just announced that it has filed a lawsuit to gain access to all the FBI records about the removal of Strzok from the Mueller investigation. Here's what the deal is. You, the American people, you deserve answers. There's a lot at stake here. This all reeks of this deep state we've been telling you about and their effort to undermine a candidate that then became president. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting that this apparent meeting between Strzok, Page, and McCabe happened during the same time the FBI started its counterintelligence investigation into, quote, possible Trump-Russia ties. And as we've been telling you, this FBI agent, Peter Strzok, is tied to everything. And his FBI lawyer girlfriend also served on Robert Mueller's team. Here's what we know about Strzok. Before being demoted from Mueller's investigation, he was a top counterintelligence official. He was the guy that actually signed the document that kicked off the Russian investigation. Strzok's team also oversaw the handling of the anti-Trump dossier, the Russian propaganda, when it was given to the FBI. He was in charge of the interview of former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. And this is where it gets really interesting. Given Strzok's anti-Trump, pro-Hillary text messages, he also played a pivotal role in this Clinton email exoneration so-called investigation. Now, this includes sitting in on Hillary's FBI interview. Remember, that was in July. In May, they already were writing the exoneration. He was also in the room for the interviews with key Clinton aides, Uma Abedin, Cheryl Mills. And this is the most damning piece of information when it comes to Strzok. He's the guy. He's the one that actually changed the legal standard language in James Comey's exoneration statement about Hillary Clinton from grossly negligent to extreme carelessness. Well, that allowed Hillary Clinton a get-out-of-jail-free card. That allowed the fix to be in from the get-go, even though we know she broke the law. What in God's name is Robert Mueller thinking to have ever put together this abusively biased, this corrupt FBI agent and so many other people that have agendas on his so-called investigative team? Mueller claims to have, impeccable integrity, a sterling reputation. Why would anybody allow that to happen? And then again, that all seems to make sense when you consider all the Democratic donors that Mueller has handpicked to be part of the investigation. Now, these investigators have given over $50 grand in cash to Democrats, including Barack Obama and, you guessed it, Hillary Clinton. Just one donated to a Republican, and none of them gave any money to the Trump campaign. This entire investigation is corrupt to its core. It has now become a witch hunt. And it's now the time where Jeff Sessions needs to do his job. It's time for you, the American people, to understand this. According to a new poll, 54% say Robert Mueller has a conflict of interest because of his friendship, he's BFF with James Comey. And as we've been telling you, these two are best friends. And as Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett has pointed out on many an occasion, their relationship could also actually be a violation of the law. Calling Attorney General Sessions, where are you? Step up and do your job. Joining us now, the president of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, investigative journalist Sarah Carter, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. We'll start with you, Greg. Where do you begin when you read this Comey exoneration and written early May? She doesn't get interviewed until July. Others don't get interviewed. The fix was in.
Well, these are the papers that we've just obtained, and it shows very clearly that James Comey felt that Hillary Clinton committed crimes. Somebody rewrote it. It appears to be Peter Strzok. And what would his motivation be? It's revealed in his emails with Lisa Page when she writes, "You are here because you were meant to protect the country from that menace," meaning Donald Trump. If Peter Strzok and others, including Comey, set out to exonerate Clinton for purely political motives in the face of overwhelming evidence of criminality, that is obstruction of justice by Strzok and Comey and others.
Meaning, if the fix was in, Greg, Comey should go to jail.
Comey initially wrote in these papers, his exoneration paper, that the sheer volume of classified documents on Clinton's server is evidence of criminality. And somebody removed that from the statement in clearing Hillary Clinton.
Unbelievable. Let me bring in Tom Fitton. Tom, why don't you explain? Listen, Judicial Watch has been doing amazing work. Let's talk about your revelations that you found.
Well, the State Department, once again, was making secret deals with Hillary Clinton to let her take documents away. And the deal was that the documents were the call logs, the schedules. There were gift logs, by the way, gifts. And some of those documents, according to the State Department promises to Hillary Clinton's representative, would not be subject to the Freedom of Information Act, meaning they'd be kept secret from the American people.
You want to bet they're gone forever? Like everything else the Clintons do, the fix is in, then they destroy, servers, delete, break up. Who breaks up their BlackBerry except the Clintons? Well, maybe Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I don't know. But really, who does this? Unless you're hiding something.
Right, and this State Department also let her walk away with those 60,000 emails, including classified information. And so it's no surprise they're hesitant to turn over the records to us, and we got to sue. And, unfortunately, we're facing battles with this Justice Department and this State Department over efforts to get all of her emails, over efforts to hold her accountable about the damage done to our national security as a result of putting classified information essentially on the internet equivalent of a park bench. I don't understand why it is we're battling this Justice Department. They're defending Hillary Clinton in court, Sean. It is worse than you even know, in the sense that
I don't get Jeff Sessions. My patience, it's fried at this point. I don't know what's going on over there, but if we believe in our Constitution, we believe in equal justice under the law, they've got to step up here. And I don't know what it's going to take. Sarah Carter, let me go to you. This is blockbuster. If we're talking about the Fourth Amendment, illegal search and seizure, you have talked to long-serving NSA legal officials and others, law enforcement, about the FBI's use of this NSA surveillance program, and that, in fact, it's being misused. Specifically, explain.
Well, yeah, specifically what they do is they have the NSA has a surveillance program that's meant to capture everything on foreigners. But what they've done is they used it as a backdoor. The FBI uses it as a backdoor to do warrantless searches on Americans. And this is a huge problem. I mean, they've admitted to it. We know that Comey testified about this just before he was fired, and he adamantly stated that we never did anything illegal. But the problem is, when the FIS courts, when the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance courts took a look at this, they said, wait a minute, no, you mishandled this program, and you were actually using it as a backdoor without a warrant, and 1 out of 20 searches, upstream data searches, were done inappropriately, and they even said they think it was far greater than that. And the only reason why these intelligence officials and law enforcement officials, Sean, came forward is because they were so concerned after what happened with President Trump and his team, particularly the unmasking and the revelations that people on Obama's administration had requested all of this information. They thought it was important that this be exposed.
As you listen to this, all of this as a lawyer, and, it's sort of like we have been on this program with the help of you, John Solomon, Sarah Carter, Tom Fitton. There's a small group of us unpeeling layer of this onion, and I see a big house of cards that is about to come collapsing in, because now we're getting to the raw part of this, which is there is a deep state. Laws are being broken. The things we've been saying about weaponizing the intelligence community and corrupt people at the highest levels.
Including a top Department of Justice official who was removed for concealing his meetings with Fusion GPS, the dossier.
Bruce Orr and his wife, who did the op research against Trump for Fusion GPS.
If the FBI and the Department of Justice used a phony dossier in their affidavit in support of a warrant to spy on Trump associates, wiretapping them, that's a fraud on the court. That's a crime. You can't use dubious information in support of a federal court order.
You watched as I did the hearings yesterday. We saw a very passionate Trey Gowdy, a very passionate Jim Jordan. And I'm sitting there, and it's everything we have all been unfolding. And I said to my audience, this should have sounded familiar, because this is what we've been covering. How close do you think we are to now getting to the truth, and who's in trouble tonight?
Well, I think Congress is going to demand the truth and begin holding people in contempt of Congress if they continue to defy
Hillary Clinton, should she be worried tonight?
Oh, Clinton should be very, very worried tonight.
Should Uma Abedin be worried?
Yes.
Cheryl Mills?
Yes.
James Comey?
Yes.
Robert Mueller?
Robert Mueller, you know, it's hard to say because he does have a distinguished record. However, the people he put on this special counsel team.
Is it not clear that by now he has an agenda?
Clear bias.
Rosenstein, is he in trouble?
Oh, yes. He's conflicted out of this case. He refuses to
Andrew
do so.
McCabe?
He's in big trouble.
Sarah, you know all the players, you know all the information. You're covering all of these on many fronts. We haven't even mentioned Uranium One in any detail, but that's about to blow up in a big way. Who's in trouble tonight? Who should be worried tonight based on what we now know?
Well, what we now know, I think Deputy Director Andrew McCabe is going to be in big trouble. I know that Congress is looking at him now. They probably are going to try to get his text going to question him and ask him, why did you change this? Yes, I believe
Hillary
so
Clinton?
too. Oh, yeah, I think she's been worried about this for a long time.
Cheryl Mills?
Absolutely.
Uma?
Absolutely.
Anyone else you can think of?
Peter Strzok, Lisa Page. I mean, I think they're already in trouble.
Yeah. Tom, you agree with all that?
Yeah, I think there's a likelihood the Clinton investigations get reopened. The Mueller investigation is derailed as a result of the compromises caused by having this FBI special agent involved. The #2 deputy being a Hillary Clinton activist going to her election night party, sending an email to Sally Yates praising her anti-Trump actions as an Obama holdover acting Attorney General. Look, you know, just so you know, Sean, we looked into the prosecutors that Mueller hired. We couldn't find anyone who was a registered Republican.
Exit question.
We did find 10 registered Democrats, no registered Republicans on Mueller's team.
Okay. Exit question, yes or no question. Bigger than Watergate?
In so many different ways, it is.
Sarah?
It's more pervasive.
Sarah?
Yes, I think so. And I agree with Greg.
Spying by the FBI, Justice Department, intelligence agencies on the political opponents of the administration of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Bigger than Watergate by far.
I say Watergate on steroids, human growth hormone overdoses. Thank you both. This is serious. All right. You don't want to miss 1 minute of tonight's show. When we come back, we're going to get Newt Gingrich's reaction to all of this breaking news. That's straight ahead. Welcome back to Hannity, joining us now with more reaction to this explosive new document that Fox News obtained just a couple hours ago regarding James Comey's exoneration statement about the Clinton server investigation. He's the author of the best-selling book, Vengeance, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. Okay, this is May, Mr. Speaker. He hadn't interviewed Hillary Clinton or at least 17 others, key to the investigation. The fix is in. I don't know any other way to interpret it if you're writing an exoneration before an investigation.
Look, I think this is unbelievable. If you and I had sat down, and obviously very pro-Trump, but if we'd both sat down and said 2 years ago, let's write a story in which the head of the FBI consciously sets out to protect Hillary Clinton, no matter how guilty she is, consciously sets out to protect her staff, no matter how guilty they are, sets up everything so that even his statements in public will exonerate her. We couldn't have made this up. If it is now clear, first of all, that if Comey and the FBI had done their job early enough, that you probably would have had Bernie Sanders as the nominee, because Hillary couldn't have survived the obvious news about how guilty she and her staff were.
When you talk about the Clintons, the fix was in there too, we now know. We know the fix was in.
So So here's my point. You now have, and this is a very serious question for the Congress, and frankly, I think it puts an enormous amount of pressure on the Attorney General, because I think Attorney General Sessions has an absolute obligation to look at this information and begin to think about how they're going to prosecute Comey and how they're going to prosecute all of these other senior FBI agents who clearly, based on their text messages back and forth, and including, by the way, I think, a great deal of as yet unreported guilt in terms of the chief deputy whose wife had gotten, I think, $900,000 from the Democrats, and yet who was still engaged in all this. I mean, you have here a cesspool of corruption covering up for the Clintons in a way which I would have to say as a historian is unimaginable. I do not know of any point in American history where you have this level of a system of corruption. We've had occasional attorney generals. We had one under Harding. We had one under Grant. I mean, you can go back and find individuals who were crooks. But this level of constant, methodical undermining of the rule of law, people who thought it was their job to save America. I mean, you have this when you're talking about law enforcement officials who decide they will impose their version on the American people, you're talking about something very scary and something which totally undermines the American system.
Mr. Speaker, I want to get into the specifics of this. This is very profound because on a level far deeper than Watergate ever was here, there is corruption at the highest levels. This is no longer paranoia. It's provable fact that the fix was in here. You have James Comey. Then you have the pro-Hillary, anti-Trump Peter Strzok, and then his girlfriend, Lisa Page. Yeah, they're the ones that are going to save America with what they're doing. But this exoneration of Hillary Clinton, when you take out the word likely foreign actors were able to access her email account to cover up a foreign, a national security breach in this country. Then when you take the actual legal language, gross negligence, and you remove that and put in, and you try to be cute and put in extreme carelessness, I don't even know what to say. I mean, there's nothing. Well, wouldn't you define this as obstruction? Sorry.
Look, at every level, this is undermining our system of justice. It is violating the law. It's very likely all of these people will end up going to jail. But imagine that the reverse had happened. Imagine that they had allowed the law to follow its natural course. Imagine that you'd gotten a report last summer, or the summer of 2016, by Director Comey saying, well, you know, it's likely that foreign agents did get to her accounts because of the way she'd handled them and the way she'd broken the rules. It is clear that she was guilty of gross negligence, which in fact is a technical term meaning that she had broken the law. And if he had said, therefore, I am recommending that she be prosecuted, I mean, you would have blown the whole campaign wide open at that point. You probably would have had Trump winning with 55 or 60% of the vote. You'd have had a shattering of the Democratic Party. All of this is I mean, I literally, and I'll challenge anybody in our audience to find me a case where you have this kind of methodical corruption, this violation of the rule of law at this level of bureaucracy. Not the political appointees at the very top, but people who have spent their career who are sworn to uphold the law. And I think it's maybe the greatest crisis in terms of law and order and the rule of law in American history.
The rule of law in jeopardy. Do we have a dual justice system? More with Newt Gingrich right after this.
Pence delaying his trip to the Middle East as Congress nears a vote on tax reform. President Trump and GOP lawmakers are hoping for a vote early next week, and if needed, the vice president could be the tiebreaker. During his trip to the Middle East, Pence will meet with leaders of Egypt and Israel, but Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas canceled their meeting after the president officially recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. A massive wildfire in Southern California now blamed for a second death. A firefighter was killed while battling the Thomas Fire. The wildfire burning across Ventura and Santa Barbara counties has burned more than 240,000 acres and destroyed nearly 1,000 structures. The fire is now the fourth largest in state history. If news breaks out, we'll break in. I'm Trace Gallagher. Now back to Hannity.
All right, welcome back to Hannity. We have more reaction to this blockbuster news about James Comey and the May 2nd exoneration of Hillary before the investigation was even complete. Let me just. By the way, we know that she destroyed such information. We know that she lied when she said she didn't have this information on there, that she didn't send or receive. That's been debunked. Then you've got the whole thing about deleting 33,000 subpoenaed emails. Then you got the acid wash and the use of bleach bit. Most Americans had never heard of it before. Then you've got an aide busting up devices, BlackBerries and the like, with hammers. And the only thing they turn over to the FBI in terms of a device is one without a SIM card, rendering it useless for the FBI. Now, that sounds to me, it is obvious that laws were broken here, and that we now know 5 foreign agencies tapped into that particular server. That compromised national security. So does that mean now that the fix is in with Comey instructed, we got to go back and do it all over again?
Well, I think a couple things here. First of all, there's a report out today that she apparently had a deal. I haven't seen the exact language yet, but she apparently had a deal with the Obama administration that allowed she and her top aides to take away whatever they wanted to, which apparently included an entire section on her outreach to the Muslim community in the Middle East. I mean, first of all, the Obama administration didn't have the authority to violate law by having this kind of a deal. But second, this is a whole new zone that just showed up during the day today as a report of a special arrangement that she had made to be able to take all this stuff away, even though
that was
would
with the
be
Obama administration,
in terms of security. With the Obama administration. So let me draw this into 2 parts for a second, Sean. Part 1 is Hillary and the entire gang from the foundation through her aides, etc. That's got to be reopened. Part 2 is the level of corruption and dishonesty in the FBI and the Justice Department. That's an entire new case. Both of these cases, I think the Congress has to insist, and frankly, Attorney General Sessions has to insist, that both of these are going to be pursued not as a matter of vengeance, not to go after people, but because the rule of law, the very base of the American system, requires that we take seriously when powerful people are corrupted. And you have both a Clinton corruption and a Comey FBI corruption. Those are 2 separate cases. They both have to be brought to light, and people have to be prosecuted.
I always thought that it was a mistake that Jeff Sessions recused himself here. And you got Rod Rosenstein.
Wait.
Okay.
Wait, he has not recused himself on any of this. He recused himself narrowly on the Russian investigation about whether or not the Trump campaign was involved. But as Attorney General, he's not recused on whether or not the FBI was corrupted, and he's not recused on whether or not the Clinton team was corrupted.
And I was specifically
and he has
told
an absolute obligation.
I agree with you. But he also didn't recuse himself on Uranium One or on the dossier, because, again, that came up later, too. You know, tell me talk about.
Let me say this. Let me say this straight. Let me say this straight for a second, because I've known Jeff Sessions a long time. And I'll just say flatly, it's time for the Attorney General to step up to the plate and do his job. He has no excuse. As somebody who I know believes in the law, he has no excuse for hiding. He has to set up a Clinton investigation. He has to set up an FBI Justice Department investigation. This is his obligation under the law to enforce it and to protect the American people. And Jeff Sessions has nowhere to hide on this. He can't recuse himself. He can't say he's not involved. These 2 things are so profound that he has to take them head on, or he's frankly not doing his job.
I don't think I could say it any better. It's serious. We will stay on it. Interesting, isn't it sad? Probably the biggest news story in our lifetime politically, and the news media in this country has basically ignored it, and they've been co-opted by a phony narrative, and that they are spreading lies and fake news for a year and being caught regularly at it. Last word.
Well, look, this is the beginning of the end of their world. If the Clintons go down as hard as I think they're going to, and if the corruption in the FBI goes down as hard as I think it's going to, then the elite media will have been more severely damaged than any time in the last 50 years.
Chilling. Mr. Speaker, we'll stay on it, I promise. This is a huge story. Up next, the liberal media is doing everything in their power to cover up the anti-Trump bias that is within Robert Mueller, the special counsel's team. We're going to show you one of the worst examples yet. We'll do the media's job. Glad you're with us on Hannity. Hey, Liberal Joe over Conspiracy TV, MSNBC, took a vicious, nasty, personal shot at Freedom Caucus member, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. Now, first, Scarborough went after Jordan for not wearing a suit coat during yesterday's hearing with Rod Rosenstein. I didn't know Joe was that stuffy and fashion-oriented. And then Joe attacked Jordan for simply trying to get to the truth and get answers on the possible bias in the Mueller probe. Take a look.
Jim Jordan thinks the American people are stupid enough, maybe because he's not wearing a jacket. He's one of us. Hey, look at him. His ties are untied. Why not just roll up his sleeves and put on a hard hat? So Jim Jordan is saying that now that they're actually getting close to figuring out what went on, and people have already admitted to wrongdoing, and may serve time. This national security advisor may serve time. They're now saying, why aren't you disbanding this investigation? How stupid do they think we are? How stupid are they, and how stupid, Willie, do they think we are?
Poor Liberal Joe sold his soul to work at Conspiracy TV. Here with reaction, former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino, Fox News correspondent at large Geraldo Rivera, Fox News contributor Jessica Tarlov. I want to start with you, Geraldo, and put your legal hat on. This Comey news tonight proves what we have been saying. The fix was in. When you read what Comey was writing in early May, before he even talked to Hillary and key people in that email server investigation, isn't that obstruction?
It is fascinating evidence indicating, at the very least, an inclination to go with the Democrats, with the liberals, perhaps a personal bias, but to prove substantively that altered the course of the investigation.
Of course it did.
Don't you think that it's far more important to stress the fact that you have the special prosecutor with lavish funding, all of these acolytes who hate President Trump,
love Hillary,
and they have come up with absolutely nothing in all of these months.
At its core, it is corruption. At its core, the fix was in. Poor Bernie never had a shot. We now know the Clintons fix everything. Poor Bernie. I feel sorry for Bernie people. They voted for nothing. You donated for nothing. The fix was in.
The fix, you can't fix 4 million votes, and that's what Bernie Sanders lost.
Yeah, actually you can.
And to your point, no, you can't. And Donna Brazile even admitted that herself. To your point about the text messages, I think Peter Strzok should have been removed. But he also exchanged disparaging text messages about Bernie Sanders, who I believe is a liberal. Eric Holder, also a liberal. Chelsea Clinton, a Clinton, so mega liberal. This is not just about Trump.
I always want to be clear, Bongino, because I want to be clear. I love the FBI. You know I love the FBI. I love the secret. I love law enforcement. I love our intelligence community. But at the top, we've got deep corruption.
Well, Sean, I know what you've done for our military and law enforcement, so there's no need for you to even say that. And the people who know you know exactly what you've done. This is not a knock on the rank-and-file men of the FBI. I've worked with them, and women, by the way. They're wonderful. But this case is a sham. And Joe Scarborough, by the way, should be embarrassed. I know Jim Jordan well. Joe Scarborough couldn't wipe Jim Jordan's nose if he had a cold. Sean, this is the critical question right now, which, by the way, an honorable man in Jim Jordan has asked. Was this dossier used to spy on Americans or not? Have you noticed, Sean? Nobody can answer the question. Rod Rosenstein said, oh, I have the answer, but I can't answer it. That's the critical question, and thank God people like Jim Jordan are asking it right now.
What did you think of the Comey letter from May 2nd, or the exoneration before investigation? Geraldo's being gracious and generous tonight.
I appreciate it mightily.
Yeah, Jessica, he's in a Christmas spirit.
Hanukkah spirit.
It's Hanukkah now, correct. Happy Hanukkah to everybody.
Thank you.
But seriously, that is a smoking gun. Peter Strzok and Comey had the fix in, and it shouldn't surprise anybody.
I think personally, if you're asking me, that the pressure on the special prosecutor now to wrap up this investigation. I fear that when we go to these other tangential issues, we lose sight of what is important to the 45th president of the United States. He has now been accused by half the American people and propagandized on a regular basis that he collaborated and colluded with the Russians
what about the system
to
of
alter
justice?
the election.
Equal justice under the law. I know you believe that.
I want the special prosecutor to go away. The problem with special prosecutors is they are so lavishly funded, they are empowered, and they never want to give up the reins. Look at Ken Starr. What started as a real estate transaction, Whitewater, morphed into an impeachment of the president. This special prosecutor has to admit that there's no evidence here whatsoever.
Do you see a threat? One second, Jessica, sorry. Do you see a real clear present danger to equal justice under the law? I do.
I think that if we keep down this road of a special prosecutor for everything, we will distract this government.
The Clintons got away with crimes.
I want the president to shake this off now. No more Russiagate. Now
You're
go
ignoring
on and make
me.
America
You're
great.
really good at your job. You're ignoring everything I say. Dan Bongino.
Sean, if you and I both know, and so does Jessica and so does Geraldo, if there was a text message in 2008, right before the election, between two senior FBI agents investigating Barack Obama that talked about an insurance plan in case he won, this country would have exploded, and rightfully so.
Right
this is a disgrace, and you need a special prosecutor to get to the bottom of it.
No, you don't need two special prosecutors for this. Listen, I said Peter Strzok should have been fired. That is highly inappropriate. The idea that they were sitting around in Andy McCabe's office talking about this. We know that under the law, under the Hatch Act, you can absolutely have personal political beliefs. Everybody has them. Everyone goes, and I hear you laughing, Dan, but it's true. The question
Jessica,
is whether that translates into action. And both Christopher Wray and Rod, Dan, just 2 seconds. Both Christopher Wray and Rod Rosenstein testified within the last week to say that the Mueller probe is working as it should, and they have complete confidence in
Dan
that.
and then Geraldo.
Jessica, seriously, with all due respect, you know I like you, but they are the text messages about an insurance plan to make sure if Trump is elected. I mean, that doesn't puzzle you at all.
What do you think they did?
I know you.
Because it obviously backfired, right? Because I believe Donald Trump sits at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and Hillary Clinton lives in the woods. So obviously, nothing happened here.
Let's get Geraldo.
I don't want to be a
but there's no special prosecutor for Hillary.
But we all watched. You point to MSNBC and the CNN and their continuing regurgitation of the same facts. They talk about Manafort. They talk about General Flynn without mentioning the essential fact that neither of those men had anything to do with Donald Trump colluding with Russians to alter the election. That's what this.
By the way, there was one.
Hang
on, please.